My husband's first love was diagnosed with terminal cancer. To pay for her treatment, he secretly transferred all our savings to her. When I found out, he righteously defended himself. What's wrong with me giving her the money? Do you expect me to just watch her die? But what he didn't know was that he also had cancer. This money was his last chance to survive. The doctor said that without treatment, he had no more than 3 months to live. But thankfully, his cancer type wasn't the worst. If treated, he could possibly live another 3 to 5 years. The treatment costs, however, were astronomical. To gather money for his treatment, I had already sold all my gold jewelry and heirlooms in secret. Now, I was at a car dealership, planning to sell the car that came with my dowry. Just as I was about to sign the contract, I received a text message. Your account XXXX transferred 300,000 yuan to XXXX at 2:03 p.m. on April 15th. My heart sank instantly. Alan didn't know about his illness yet. To spare him the shock, his parents and I had been hiding the truth, only telling him it was mild liver inflammation that could be treated with some medication. While keeping it a secret, I had been quietly raising money behind his back. After half a month of effort, we had only managed to scrape together 400,000 yuan. That included the 300,000 yuan Alan and I had saved for a down payment over 3 years. Of that, 100,000 yuan was money I had raised and temporarily stored in my account, while the remaining 300,000 yuan was in Alan's account, but registered under my phone number. That's why I received the notification as soon as he transferred it. I was panicking. This money was Alan's lifeline. Now, Alan had transferred the entire 300,000 yuan without even discussing it with me. How could I not be anxious? My first thought was that Alan had been scammed. He had always been a reliable, home-loving man with no bad habits. Other than being tricked, I couldn't think of any reason he'd suddenly spend such a large sum. I immediately called him. Darling, what's with the money in your account? My tone was urgent, but Alan remained calm. Marcia is sick, stomach cancer. She needs this money for treatment, so I gave it to her. It took me a moment to remember who Marcia was. She was his first love from university, the girl he had pursued for 2 years. He would buy her breakfast every day, take care of her needs, but she always saw him as just a friend. She accepted his gifts, but never returned his feelings. Thinking back now, Marcia certainly knew how to get her way. When Alan and I first met, he had mentioned this past relationship in passing, jokingly calling himself a hopeless simp with a nonchalant laugh. I thought he had moved on, which is why I agreed to date him. But now, after all these years, it turned out his first love was still his first love. Whenever she needed something, he'd still give her everything without hesitation. In that moment, I felt a mix of resentment and anger, the kind of anger that comes from having your sincerity trampled on. I clenched my fists and forced myself to stay calm. Alan, that's all our savings. Half of it is my money. Did you even consider me when you transferred it all to her without my consent? Alan, unfazed, chuckled. Come on, I was just about to tell you when you called. I wasn't ignoring you, babe. Besides, I told Marcia the money was from you, and she said she'd make sure to thank you properly. Oh, she better thank me. After all, a simple thank you just earned her 300,000 yuan. What a great deal for her. But I should thank her, too. This 300,000 yuan, compared to the exorbitant costs of Alan's future treatments and the years of tireless care I'd have to provide, is nothing. Thanks to her, I realized Alan's true nature before I completely ruined myself trying to save him. I smiled and said, "You're right. I shouldn't argue with someone who's practically at death's door." Alan's tone softened immediately. I'm glad you understand. It's okay, I won't hold it against you. I suppressed my disdain and kept my expression neutral. Feigning empathy, I said. But Alan, Marcia is terminally ill, and she has no one to care for her. Just transferring money isn't enough, someone should take care of her, too. Before I could finish, Alan excitedly interrupted me. You're amazing, Caroline. You're absolutely right. How about this, let's bring Marcia home. You can quit your job to take care of her for a while. That way, we won't have to hire someone, and the money saved can be used to buy her more supplements. What the? How could he shamelessly say something like that? I laughed in exasperation. Alan, has a donkey kicked you in the head? You give another woman money for treatment, and now you expect me to quit my job to take care of her? Do you hear yourself? What I meant was, I'll divorce you so you can have the space to care for her yourself. That way, I won't be around to ruin your lovey-dovey moments. Hearing this, Alan got angry. You're divorcing me over such a trivial matter? Trivial? He secretly gave away the down payment we'd saved for years, and it's trivial? Ridiculous. I sternly repeated myself. I'm serious. The moment you transferred all our savings to your ex without consulting me, our marriage effectively ended. Before I could finish, Alan hurriedly cut me off. Caroline, I only pity Marcia. Don't misunderstand. You're the one I truly love. I'll never divorce you. Love? Wherever the money goes, so does the love. He gave his money to Marcia, fought with me over Marcia, and now that I'm divorcing him, he claims to love me? His love sure is cheap. I smirked sarcastically and said, Fine, if you won't agree to the divorce, then I'll sue to get back our joint property. Once we've settled that, we can discuss the divorce. Alan was furious and began hurling insults at me. Caroline, do you have to be so heartless? You're so cold-blooded. I must have been blind to marry you. Funny, wasn't he just saying he loved me? How quickly his tune changed. Ignoring him, I gave my ultimatum. I'll give you 24 hours to think it over. If I don't hear from you by then, I'll have my lawyer send Marcia a letter. Make your choice. Then, amidst his shouting, I hung up. At the car dealership. Miss Caroline, are you still selling the car? The dealership agent approached me politely. I smiled faintly. No, I'm not selling it anymore. Sorry for the trouble. The agent didn't show any annoyance and maintained his friendly demeanor. Not at all. It's a valuable car, so you're right to reconsider. If you ever decide to sell it, feel free to contact me. I nodded. Thank you. Compared to Alan's audacity in secretly taking our joint savings and insulting me when confronted, the agent's professionalism was a breath of fresh air. He'll likely earn more clients in the future, while Alan's life seems doomed to stagnation. He's burying his own future with his own hands. After leaving the dealership, I went straight to a nearby jewelry store. There, I bought a gold piece similar to the one I had sold earlier, matching in design and weight. Although gold prices were much higher now, and I winced a little at the cost, I still bought it. I didn't want my original assets to turn into joint property, leaving Alan with a claim on them during the divorce. I had to protect my own financial security. After all, if I didn't spend the money, Alan would find a way to let other women spend it for me. Why save it for him? After buying the gold, I strolled around the mall, treating myself to new clothes, good food, and some fun. Ever since Alan's diagnosis, I had stopped spending on myself, focusing entirely on finding money and the best treatment options for him. Now, it was time to start loving myself again. When I was sitting in a dessert shop enjoying my sweets, my phone rang. It was Alan's mother, my mother-in-law, Regina, calling. The moment I answered, she began speaking in an impatient tone. Caroline, have you sold your car yet? Did you manage to gather enough money for my son's medical expenses? Her tone was anything but polite, as though she believed it was my duty to sell my car and scrape together money for her son's treatment. What a self-centered woman. In the past, I put up with her attitude because Alan and I still had a loving relationship, and I wanted to maintain peace for his sake. But now that we're heading for a divorce, why should I indulge her anymore? I replied coldly, no, I haven't sold it, and I don't have the money. You'll have to figure something else out. Regina immediately became agitated. What do you mean you haven't sold it? The hospital is still waiting for payment. How can you just say no? What's Alan supposed to do? What about us? Not my problem. I chuckled and replied, don't you still have a house? Selling it should get you over $1 million. That's more than enough to cover Alan's treatment. My car, on the other hand, won't fetch much. If they want to save their son, they can sell their house. Why should I, the daughter-in-law, be guilt-tripped into selling my pre-marriage property? My words left Regina speechless for a moment. She couldn't muster a single rebuttal. Eventually, she burst out in anger. My son is gravely ill, and you want us to sell our only house to save him? If Alan doesn't make it, how are we, two elderly people, supposed to live? Do you have any conscience? I rubbed my temples and let out a mocking smile. So, you're afraid of being left with nothing, and instead, you expect me to drain my finances to save your son? That's pretty shameless of you, don't you think? As Regina stumbled for words, my father-in-law took over the call. He and Regina always worked as a team, she played the bad cop, and he played the good cop. This time was no exception. He said kindly, "Caroline, don't mind Regina. She's just upset. We've been trying to figure out the medical expenses and have decided to sell the house. But you know how the real estate market is, it's hard to sell quickly. We're really worried. But hey, if you don't want to sell the car, that's fine. We'll think of something else. Worst case, we'll start collecting scraps and make the money somehow." Ah, the classic pity card. This might have worked on the old me, the one who was kind, filial, and always respectful to elders. But not anymore. Now, I have no such moral obligations. Their attempts to guilt-trip me are entirely ineffective. If they want to sweep the streets or collect scraps, so be it. It's none of my business. I chuckled lightly and said, "You're so determined. I'm sure you'll make it happen. Best of luck to you." Alright, let's end it here. You must be busy with your career, and my ice cream is melting. I quickly hung up. There was no way I'd spend another penny on Alan in this lifetime. Alan, as usual, chose to avoid reality. By the following afternoon, he still hadn't said a word about the divorce or the 300,000 yuan in question. He didn't answer my calls or reply to my messages, clearly hoping to drag things out until the issues disappeared. This was his typical cowardly approach. In the past, it would have made me angry. Now, I just found it childish and ridiculous. Did he think ignoring the problem would solve it? Maybe it worked on people who tolerated him, but it had zero effect on me now. As soon as the 24-hour deadline passed, I had my lawyer send a legal notice to Marcia, demanding that she return the 300,000 yuan of marital property within the stipulated time. Not long after the notice was sent, Alan called me, furious. "Caroline, are you insane? Marcia's still in the hospital, and you're suing her? Have you no compassion?" I rolled my eyes. "What does that have to do with me? If you hadn't ghosted me, I wouldn't have needed to involve a lawyer." Alan was livid. "Then withdraw the legal notice right now. Marcia can't handle any more stress in her condition." I replied calmly, "Sure, I'll withdraw it, after we finalize the divorce. Once I have the divorce certificate in hand, I'll drop the case. Otherwise, your precious first love can prepare to face the court." Alan hesitated for a long time before finally saying, with great difficulty, "Fine, we'll get divorced. But don't regret it." "Regret? Please. Getting rid of a cancer-stricken, cheating husband for just 150,000 yuan? I'd never been happier." Whether Alan would regret it later, though, I couldn't say. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, Alan showed up late, holding Marcia's hand. Marcia wore a white dress, looking pale and fragile, like a delicate little flower. The moment she saw me, she timidly asked, "Caroline, are you really going to divorce Alan?" I raised an eyebrow, unsure what she was playing at, and asked, "What do you think?" Marcia sighed softly and pleaded, "Can you not divorce Alan? He and I have always been just friends. We've never crossed any boundaries. Don't misunderstand. Alan helped me with my treatment purely out of kindness. He doesn't deserve to be punished for being a good person. And I don't have much time left. I don't want Alan to lose me and you at the same time. It would be too cruel for him. So, please, don't abandon him, okay?" By the time she finished speaking, her eyes were red, and her voice trembled as if she were enduring immense pain. Alan looked at her with pure pity, holding her tightly as he cried, "Marcia, you're so selfless. I can't lose you. I can't." Marcia gave him a sorrowful smile and gently reassured him. "Don't worry. I'll wait for you in another world. My life is nearing its end, but yours is full of possibilities. Live a good life, and one day, we'll meet again." Then she turned to me with tear-filled eyes. "Caroline, please take care of Alan for me. Were they shooting a soap opera? Was I just an extra in their drama?" So, they were the star-crossed lovers, and I was supposed to be the sacrificial lamb, spending my life with a man who didn't love me, having his children, and raising his grandchildren? Give me a break. I rolled my eyes and said, sorry, but I'm not a recycling center. I don't take in garbage. And if you don't want your Alan to divorce me, then I'll just have to pursue legal action to get back the 300,000 yuan of marital property. Marcia's face turned as white as a sheet, her eyes brimming with tears. Alan, naturally, was heartbroken. He shielded Marcia and glared at me viciously. Caroline, you're heartless. Marcia is trying to help you, and this is how you treat her? Do you even have a conscience? Fine, you want a divorce? Let's do it right now. The divorce process went smoothly. Alan and I had no joint assets, as he'd already transferred all our savings to Marcia. But I didn't care about the money, I just wanted the divorce finalized. Outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, Alan gazed at Marcia with deep affection. Marcia, once the divorce certificate is in hand, I'll marry you and make up for everything we missed out on. Don't worry, I'll take good care of you. Marcia's face was filled with emotion. Alan, you're so good to me, she said, then shot me a smug glance, as if staking her claim. But when she met Alan's gaze, her demeanor instantly changed to one of startled gratitude. The speed of her transformation was so quick that I almost doubted whether her earlier provocation was just my imagination. I raised an eyebrow and smirked. Marry her? Huh, do you think your parents would ever let you bring a cancer patient into their home? The moment you walk her through the door, your mother would tear her apart. Marcia was terrified and looked to Alan for help. Alan's expression turned serious. He knew his mother better than anyone and was well aware that she would never allow him to marry a terminally ill woman or spend all their savings on her treatment. After all, back when I was diagnosed with a small ovarian cyst, his mother was already worried I would drag him down and kept pressuring him to divorce me. It wasn't until months later, when the cyst was gone, that she finally settled down. And now, Marcia's illness was cancer. I could already imagine the chaos that would ensue if Alan brought Marcia home. It would be a spectacle, for sure. Alan mulled over it for a while, then his eyes lit up. He turned to me, pleading. Caroline, can we keep our divorce and Marcia's illness a secret from my parents for now? At least until after Marcia and I are officially married? I chuckled inwardly, but feigned confusion on the surface. Why? Alan explained, if I suddenly tell my parents that I'm divorcing you to marry Marcia, they'll never accept it. It's better if we keep our divorce quiet for now and let Marcia warm up to them as a friend. Once they start to like her, it'll make things easier. After Marcia and I get married in a month, they'll have no choice but to accept it. Please, just do me this one last favor. I pretended to hesitate, furrowing my brow before finally nodding. All right, I'll help you keep this secret. After leaving the Civil Affairs office, I went home with Alan and Marcia. I needed to pack up my things, and Alan was bringing Marcia home to meet his parents. When Alan and I got married, his family didn't buy a new house for us. They simply renovated his old room, and we moved in. The room was tiny, barely over 10 square meters, and the neighborhood was old and run down, with no soundproofing or security. Since getting married, my biggest dream had been to own a home of our own, a place with an elevator, some greenery, and 2 or 3 bedrooms. Alan and I had saved for years, scraping together just enough for a down payment. I thought we were finally about to make our dream come true, but fate had other plans. Now, everything was gone. But it wasn't too late to start over. When I entered the house, my mother-in-law, Regina, was cleaning the entryway. The moment she saw me, her face darkened, ready to accuse me. You wretch! How dare you show your face here? What about the money? Before she could finish, I shot her a look, silently warning her to stop. That's when she noticed Alan and Marcia behind me, and immediately clamped her mouth shut. Alan, confused, asked, Money? What money? Mom, did you argue with Caroline? Regina froze, panic written all over her face. She didn't dare tell the truth, knowing her timid son wouldn't be able to handle the shock. I stepped in to defuse the situation. Oh, it's about buying a house. I found one I liked, but we're still short about 100,000 yuan for the down payment. Mom's been pushing me to find a way to make up the difference. Regina quickly chimed in, yes, that's exactly it. You two really need to buy a house soon. Alan looked embarrassed. After his recent maneuvers, the shortfall wasn't 100,000 anymore, it was 400,000. We were back to square one. He hesitated before saying, buying a house isn't urgent. We're still young, we'll manage it eventually. His words brought tears to both Regina's and Marcia's eyes. One was mourning her son's doomed future, while the other lamented her own. Sure, Alan and Marcia were young, but they didn't have much time left. To change the subject, Alan introduced Marcia. This is Marcia, my college classmate. She just got transferred to this city for work and needs a place to stay for a while. Marcia politely greeted his parents and handed over the gifts she had brought, a scarf and a bottle of wine. These are for you. I hope you like them. Regina's face lit up with joy as she took the gifts. Oh, you didn't need to bring anything. This scarf must have been expensive, wasn't it? Of course, it wasn't. She had picked it up from a boutique on the way over. But Marcia kept her answer vague. You deserve the best. A cheap gift wouldn't match your elegance. Marcia's smile stiffened for a moment before she quickly recovered. They're in business, but they're very busy. Busy indeed, always up at dawn, dodging city inspectors. To win over Alan's parents, Marcia was really laying it on thick. Regina's smile widened further. Treat this place like your home. Stay as long as you like. Then, she shot me a disdainful glance, making her contempt for me obvious. Regina had always felt I wasn't good enough for Alan. He was a graduate from a prestigious university, while I only attended an average one. She even disapproved of my looks, believing her handsome son deserved better. Now, seeing someone like Marcia, she liked me even less. But she never considered the fact that despite being a lowly graduate, I had managed to land the same job and position as Alan at the same company. Who was the more capable one, really? Alan's father, however, hesitated and tugged on Regina's sleeve. But we only have 2 bedrooms. Where would she sleep? Regina waved dismissively. That's easy. Marcia can share a room with me. You'll stay with our son. Problem solved. Alan's father frowned. Then what about Caroline? Regina replied indifferently, she's out all the time anyway. She can sleep on the couch, it's more convenient. She seemed to have forgotten that my recent late nights were spent trying to scrape together money for Alan's treatment. But I didn't bother arguing. My priority was to finalize the divorce. I smiled. No need for the couch. I've just signed up for a 1-month business trip. It'll help me earn a bit extra and give Marcia some space. Regina's face lit up. That's wonderful. Marcia, I'll make you some soup tonight. I had no interest in watching their little family bonding session. Turning away, I went to pack my belongings. I carefully packed anything of value into my suitcase. If it was mine, I wasn't leaving it behind for them. I was halfway through packing when Regina walked in. Her eyes kept darting toward my suitcase, as if terrified I might take something of hers, which made me feel uncomfortable. I ignored her and continued packing. After a while, she couldn't hold back any longer and finally spoke. Caroline, ever since you called me that day and yelled at me, I haven't slept well for 3 nights. My chest still hurts. I replied, so what? Regina pursed her lips, clearly displeased, but she still tried to appear calm. You said such things to me, yet I didn't go running to Alan to complain. I wanted to give you a chance to make amends. I've discussed it with your dad. You don't have to sell your car. You can keep it, it'll come in handy when taking Alan to the hospital. Just ask your parents to lend us 100,000 yuan, and we'll let the matter of our previous quarrel slide. I refused her without even looking up. Not a chance. Sponging off me was bad enough, but now she wanted to sponge off my parents too? Where did she get the nerve? Upon my refusal, Regina's expression darkened. You think I'm interested in your measly money? Let me tell you something, don't think so highly of yourself. Alan doesn't need you. Can't you see? Girls like Marcia, who are prettier, more educated, and come from better families than you, are throwing themselves at my son. Who do you think you are? I chuckled. Regina, don't forget, your son has cancer. Marcia only likes him because she doesn't know about his condition. What do you think will happen when she finds out? Do you think she'll run faster than I did? Hearing this, Regina's calm demeanor shattered. Her eyes flashed with fury. If you dare tell her, I'll make you regret it. Seeing my indifference, Regina eventually caved. Fine, let's compromise. You keep Alan's illness a secret, and we won't ask you for money. Let's settle for a peaceful divorce. From now on, his illness has nothing to do with you. She really never misses a chance to strike a deal. After our previous exchanges, she must have realized I wouldn't give Alan another cent conveniently. She had found a new, wealthy target in Marcia, so she was eager to get rid of me and move on to her next victim. Calling it a compromise was laughable. She was the only one gaining anything. I replied, absolutely not. Alan and I already registered our divorce. If you keep using this as leverage, it'll make me feel cheated. As I spoke, I took out the signed divorce agreement, complete with both Alan's and my signatures. Seeing the agreement, Regina's face first lit up, then quickly turned stormy. Then what do you want? I smiled. Simple. You post on Facebook and say that my divorce from Alan was because he cheated, and I bear no fault. This way, when the truth comes out, you won't be able to pin anything on me. Regina glared at me with fury, clearly unwilling. But that would make my son look like a cheater. What if Marcia finds out and doesn't marry him? I shrugged. Suit yourself. If you don't agree, I'll tell her right now. Then there's no what if, she'll definitely leave immediately. Finally, Regina gave in. She begrudgingly posted a Facebook status visible to everyone except Alan and Marcia, claiming our divorce was due to Alan's infidelity. I liked her post. My boss had mentioned transferring me to another position before, but I refused at the time. I was worried that if I suddenly moved to another city, there'd be no one to look after Alan. But now, Alan is no longer worth it. So, when my boss brought it up again, I agreed. As a result, I got a promotion. I went from being a cog in the corporate machine at the headquarters to a management position at a branch office. The work was more exhausting, but the prospects were bright, and the salary increase made it worthwhile. Nowadays, aside from being caught up in the hustle and bustle of work, my favorite pastime is observing Regina's social media updates. Regina has been doting on Marcia lately, cooking her delicious meals every day and always wearing a cheerful smile around her. Likewise, Marcia has been working hard to butter her up. Marcia bought me this necklace, isn't it beautiful? Marcia got me this new outfit. I absolutely love it. In the photos, Regina is grinning from ear to ear. I wonder how she'd feel if she knew that all the money Marcia is spending on her actually comes from her son's life-saving fund. A month flew by, and finally, the day I could officially get my divorce certificate arrived. Alan showed up late to the civil affairs office, with Marcia in tow. Compared to before, Alan's complexion looked sallow, and he seemed unwell. Marcia was still dressed in a white dress with a veil, her gaunt face glowing with bashful joy. It seemed they planned to get married right after finalizing the divorce with me. After receiving the divorce certificate, Marcia enthusiastically thanked me. Caroline, thank you. If you hadn't given up on Alan, I wouldn't have been able to be with such a wonderful person. Thank you for your generosity. Alan affectionately patted her head, his eyes full of adoration. Why are you thanking her? I'm marrying you, there's no need to thank someone like her. He then gave me a cold glare. She's just a greedy woman who refused to help in a time of need. How could she ever compare to you? I love you because you deserve it. I rolled my eyes. What a pair of delusional fools. They're practically at death's door and still trying to play games with me. How ridiculous. I retorted sarcastically. There's no need to thank me, indeed. After all, proper waste sorting is everyone's responsibility. Hazardous waste should stick together, shouldn't it? With that, I left gracefully, ignoring the murderous look Alan shot at me. About half a month later, things got lively at Alan's house. According to a former coworker I was still on good terms with, after Alan and Marcia got married, the four of them, Alan, Marcia, and Alan's parents, sat down to reveal their secrets to each other. After all, Alan and Marcia's illnesses could no longer be hidden. It was time to discuss funding for further treatment. That's when Alan discovered that the anti-inflammatory pills he had been taking were actually cancer medication hidden in anti-inflammatory bottles. He didn't have hepatitis, he had liver cancer. Regina then found out that the wealthy heiress Marcia she had been pampering was actually penniless, and not just broke, but also a cancer patient. Worse, Marcia even expected her to sell their house to fund her treatment. Marcia also learned that the man she'd been scheming to use as her cash cow was not only another cancer patient like her, but also someone whose parents expected her to foot his medical bills instead. All three of them were momentarily stunned. When they snapped out of it, Marcia exploded in rage. "You people are outrageous. You knew Alan was sick, and you still tricked me into marrying him? This is fraud. I don't care, you owe me compensation for emotional distress and must cover all my future expenses." Alan was devastated. It wasn't clear whether he was heartbroken about his illness or Marcia's reaction. Looking wounded, he asked, "Marcia, when you were diagnosed with cancer, I didn't abandon you. I even secretly gave you 300,000 yuan behind Caroline's back and divorced her for you. How can you treat me like this now that I'm the one who's sick?" Marcia spat at him. "Do you think we're the same? Take a look in the mirror. If I weren't sick, do you think I'd ever consider you? If it weren't for your promise to sell your house to pay for my treatment, do you think I'd marry you? And now you're sick too? Who am I supposed to rely on to treat my illness now?" That's when Regina snapped out of her shock. So, her son not only gave Marcia the 300,000 yuan that was supposed to be a down payment on a house, but also promised to sell their home after marriage to pay for Marcia's treatment? She was furious. Her eyes reddened as she confronted Marcia. "That 300,000 was my son's life-saving money. Give it back to us now." Marcia let out a mocking laugh. "Life-saving money? Let him die, then. A useless coward like him is just wasting air by being alive." At that moment, Alan's usually silent father stood up in rage. He slapped Marcia hard across the face and roared, "You wicked woman! I'll kill you today." However, he underestimated his strength. Coupled with Marcia's frail condition, the slap knocked her unconscious. When she came to, Marcia called the police, who arrested Alan's father. This marked the complete fallout between Marcia, Alan, and Regina. Later, Alan, out of spite, filed a lawsuit against Marcia to recover the 300,000 yuan he had given her. Of course, legally, there was no way he could get it back. At most, it would only disgust Marcia on a psychological level. After everything that happened, Marcia and Alan became sworn enemies. Yet, neither was willing to let the other go, so they continued to torment each other. Their once sweet relationship had turned into mutual resentment and hostility. Regina then started reminiscing about my virtues. She might have considered using guilt to persuade me to take Alan back, but given the public knowledge of Alan's infidelity that she herself had spread, she didn't dare. Instead, she subtly brought up Alan's situation, saying he often cried out my name in his dreams and hoped I could come back to take care of him. I gave her a harsh scolding, and she backed off. Later, Alan himself regretted everything. One quiet night, he called me, crying, "Caroline, I was wrong. Please come back. I finally understand now, you're the one who truly loves me. Back then, when you found out I was sick, you were willing to sell your car to pay for my treatment. You and Marcia are worlds apart. I must have been out of my mind. I regret it so much. Please, give me another chance." But he wasn't really remorseful. He was just scared of dying and hoped to guilt-trip me into bankrupting myself to save him. I wouldn't fall for it again. I sneered and said, "Sure." Alan was overjoyed. "You mean it?" I continued. "I'll give you another chance the day the moon crashes into the earth." Then, I hung up and blocked his number forever. After that, I threw myself fully into my work. Without Alan dragging me down, my career took off, and my salary kept increasing. Before long, I bought an apartment near the branch office and brought my parents to live with me. Together, we began a peaceful, happy life. My beautiful new life was just beginning. Extra chapter. My name is Alan. My marriage with Caroline was like a glass of plain water, ordinary and flavorless. We went to work diligently, saved money dutifully, and lived a life so dull it felt lifeless. What bothered me the most was that, even though her alma mater wasn't as prestigious as mine, Caroline was far more capable than I was. She excelled at work and was much more favored by her superiors. Of course, I couldn't help feeling indignant. After all, no man likes being outshone by his own wife. It's a direct blow to one's self-esteem. Recently, Caroline had been taking on more freelance projects, working late into the night as if possessed by the need to earn money, completely disregarding how I felt. More and more, I felt she had changed. She was no longer the innocent, sweet girl I once knew. She'd become materialistic, exhausted, and irritable, a stranger to me. So, when Marcia, the girl I had a crush on in college, told me through teary eyes that she was terminally ill, my protective instincts surged uncontrollably. She was so pitiful, so fragile, I wanted to protect her. Without consulting Caroline, I transferred all our savings to Marcia. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Caroline was so capable, even if I gave away all our money, she could earn it back in no time. Worst case scenario, we'd delay buying a house for a couple of years. But Marcia was different. She only had me. If I didn't help her get treatment, she was as good as dead. What I didn't expect was for Caroline, who was usually so mild-tempered, to explode. She actually wanted to divorce me over this. I was speechless. It was only 300,000 yuan. We could save that amount in 2 years. Why make such a fuss? Spending 300,000 yuan to save a life, isn't that worth it? But the more I thought about it, the more I understood. Caroline was upset because the person I helped was Marcia. Her anger boiled down to a woman's jealousy. If it were just complaints, I could have tolerated it. What truly enraged me was her threat to get the money back from Marcia if I didn't agree to the divorce. How could she? Marcia was already so ill, yet Caroline still sent her a lawyer's letter. How heartless could she be? I thought Caroline was just venting, but she really went through with it. She sent Marcia a formal legal notice, demanding the return of the money. In contrast, Marcia was so much more understanding. When she received the lawyer's letter, she didn't get angry. Instead, she volunteered to help me explain things to Caroline, humbling herself to the ground. But Caroline wasn't moved. If anything, she became even more unreasonable. At that moment, I completely gave up on her. My heart tilted fully toward Marcia. I decided to divorce Caroline, marry Marcia, and take care of her for the rest of my life. After Caroline's remarks, I realized my parents would never accept a terminally ill, penniless daughter-in-law. So, I hid Marcia's illness and brought her home, hoping they'd warm up to her before I revealed the truth. I never expected that decision would lead to my downfall. Later, I married Marcia. After the wedding, I confessed Marcia's illness to my parents, only to learn from them that I was also diagnosed with cancer. I thought Marcia would stand by me, face this together, and share life and death with me. But instead, she lashed out, accusing my parents of plotting against her and even berating them mercilessly. Only then did I realize she had only married me for money, to fund her treatment. There wasn't a shred of genuine affection in her. The final straw came when, after my father slapped her in a fit of anger, Marcia called the police and had him arrested, ruining his reputation entirely. I hated her. It wasn't until then that I finally appreciated Caroline's goodness. When Caroline found out about my illness, she didn't abandon me. She sold her car, used all the money we'd saved for a down payment, and did everything she could to ensure I received treatment. Compared to Marcia, the difference was night and day. I regretted everything. I finally understood how much I had lost because of my stubbornness and short-sightedness. But the world doesn't offer second chances. For the rest of my life, I will live in the shadow of illness and regret. The end.